negatively impact the endometrial receptivity. So what they are trying to say and what we should incorporate in practice, that if you are planning for fresh transfer, better you go for a long agonist protocol. But if in your unit you are following freeze all policy, or because of the adenoma presence of adenomyosis or something, you are planning to transfer a frozen embryos, then you can decide according to the ovarian reserve. If the ovarian reserve is compromised, severely compromised, then probably antagonist protocol will be better. And if the ovarian reserve is not compromised too much, then any protocol you are comfortable with, you can go ahead. But when fresh transfer, always go for agonist protocol. So, stimulation protocol for IVF, we discussed already. Agonist protocol is better, and higher number of embryos are available for cryopreservation in agonist group as compared to the antagonist protocol. So, cumulative pregnancy probably may be little higher when agonist protocol is used, which combines freshly transfer and frozen transfer later on. So, this is a table which shows comparison of the IVF outcome in endometriosis, especially stage 1 and 2, and it suggests that there is hardly any difference in the pregnancy rate. So, stage 1 to endometriosis, whether the patient has got stage 1 to endometriosis or tubal factor, the or the different, I mean, stage, little compromise in severe endometriosis, but in milder stage 1 and 2 endometriosis, the results are at par with the tubal factor. So it should be clear in your mind that in milder endometriosis, IVF outcome is equivalent, uncompromised. What about stage 3 and 4 endometriosis? In stage 3 and 4 endometriosis, there is a little compromise, 14% lower, but still the diamond is touching the central line. So it is not statistically significantly different. So you can say that in IVF outcome, stage 3 and 4 endometriosis is little compromise. Which are the cases where there is a little compromise? Because this deeper or severe endometriosis are commonly 80 to 90% cases are associated with the adenomyosis. So those are the cases likely to be affected. IVF or ICSI, higher fertilization rate, mean number of embryos, and lower rates of total fertilization failure and triploid fertilization in ICSI compared to IVF. So ICSI is probably a better choice in case of endometriosis, because we all know it can affect the zona pellucida, which we have seen earlier. So probably ICSI is better. OCP treatment for 6 to 8 weeks before IVF, ET improves the outcome by calming down the endometriosis. Now the question Dr. Milind is asking, sorry, before that Dr. Vandana, uh, if endometriosis affects oocyte quality, how is it that the embryo quality is good? If endometriosis affects the oocyte quality, how is it that the embryo quality is good? Really, we do not know why it is so, but it is so. Embryo quality in general is affected, but the usable blastocyst, morphological good blastocyst, number of the blastocysts are same. So probably self-corrective mechanism may be playing a role, or maybe, I do not know, maybe the genetic constitution, it must not be so much compromise of oocytes, which can affect the embryo quality. So probably some morphological features of the embryo may be disturbed, but genetic constitution, there is no increase in the aneuploidy rate, and probably that's the reason why explanation why embryo quality may be good. and definitely embryo quality is good. That's proven in many of the studies. But you're right, this question also keep coming in the mind. Dr. Milind, long or ultra long protocol? Very important question. If you ask me, ultra long protocol is the best protocol for poor responder and endometriosis and or endometriosis severe. So in the case of poor responder or endometriosis or both combined, ultra long protocol is the best protocol which gives the better result than the long agonist protocol. Dr. Kasturi, the difference between myohyperplasia and adenomyosis, does the treatment same for both? Myohyperplasia is one of the element which is probably related to some variety of the adenomyosis. So basically, it's a uh, histological little difference, but the basic thing remains same. There is ectopic endometrium and stroma cells in the myometrial wall, and isolated myohyperplasia is different from adenomyosis, but there is some association of the some element of the myohyperplasia along with the adenomyosis, and the result treatment are same. Uh, Dr. Amel is protocol for frozen embryo transfer. Uh, uh, that will come little later on. Still, I would tell you, in case of endometriosis, when you are planning for frozen embryo transfer, it should be always a long agonist. I mean, sorry, it should be always a down-regulated protocol, down-regulated HRT protocol. Now, this study is something which has opened the eyes of many. The recent study effect of endometriosis on embryo quality and development. The study says, this is recent study 2020, and it says there is no significant difference in fertilization rate, cleavage stage embryo, number of the cells of the embryos, percentage of good embryos, blastocyst rate, percentage of good fair blastocyst. There is no difference, almost no difference. Statistically, no significant. P-value is absolutely non-significant. So what does that signify? That signifies that up till now we were thinking that the oocyte quality is the main culprit behind the reduced success rate or infertility, uh, success rate of IVF in endometriosis. But no, the things are not like that. The reduction in ongoing pregnancy rate is possibly due to altered endometrial receptivity, maybe because adenomyosis, maybe without adenomyosis. So it's endometrial receptivity which is responsible for making a difference in the result, and that's the reason why I always recommend down regulated HRT preparation for frozen embryo transfer, because I want to calm down whatever is going on in the endometrial or endomyometrial level because of the detectable or undetectable adenomyosis. So I always prefer to downregulate 1 or 2 cycle, and then start hormonal replacement therapy, and then transfer the frozen embryos. Does ART increase the risk of recurrence of the endometriosis? No, it doesn't increase the pregnancy, doesn't increase the recurrence rate following the IVF. But definitely it might increase logically if it is a non-IVF treatment, because ultimately we know the injury and inflammation is one of the explanations put forward. So when there is a ovulation from in non-ART treatment, that could be the site or nidus for the endometriosis, but which is not true, because in endometriosis we pick up the ova directly from the ovary, and that ova are never liberated in the peritoneal cavity. What about the repeated implantation failure with the severe endometriosis? If in spite